The eCom Q4 Summit was created to prove that any seller can experience a highly profitable fourth quarter with access to the right tips, strategies, and techniques. There's no need to struggle trying to figure out what to sell, where to find it, or how much to list it for. The summit covers everything from sourcing to listing to marketing and streamlining your operations. It doesn't matter if you're selling on one platform or multiple platforms like Amazon, eBay, Shopify, Walmart. And it doesn't matter if you're a new seller or an experienced seller. The information in the summit will help you get sale after sale after sale after sale during the busiest shopping season of the year, if you take massive action. So welcome to the eCom Q4 Summit. Hello, everybody. This is Nicole Whitlock with the eCom Q4 Summit, and today's key feature speaker is Jeff Schick. Now, Jeff is an attorney at law, and so if you have any type of things that are going on with your account on any of the platforms, Jeff is definitely the person to help you. You can reach out to him at jeffschick.com, and he's an attorney. I'm not going to tell his story. I'll let him tell his story, and then we'll get into today's discussion. So, Jeff, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you so much, Nicole, for having me on. I appreciate it and appreciate the opportunity to share some interesting updates. So 2022 has been quite the year for Amazon evolution and e-commerce evolution in general when it comes to legal challenges. So I'm excited to share some of what's going on. I mean, it's exciting is not the greatest word because it's not necessarily great things, but it is an opportunity to know how to protect yourself so that you don't end up as a statistic that I talk about. So a lot of it is, put it this way, the challenges we've seen this year have been avoidable, but you have to be smart when it comes to making sure you avoid these pitfalls. So without further ado, I guess, you said you wanted me to share my story. So some of y'all may know me. I started selling on Amazon back in 2011 as a way to pay for college, then used that to pay for law school. And then while I was in law school, faced a variety of different legal issues. I got letters from Voorhees telling me I couldn't sell products anymore. I got, suspensions from Amazon. Different things happened along the way, and it turned into a opportunity for me to go from a, big law legal career that I was going to take working for one of the, large law firms in Delaware to actually starting my own legal practice. And now I'm sitting here in Atlanta, Georgia.
With a nice backdrop. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, it is a nice day today, actually. It's surprisingly cool. So I figured I'd take the opportunity and sit outside, so avoid some of the noise inside. So what are we seeing in 2022? Well, we're seeing a lot of interesting suspensions when it comes to Amazon. Those suspensions have run the gamut from things that people would expect, like IP claims, to things people wouldn't expect. They've also had resolutions that we wouldn't expect as well. So, for instance, we've had several sellers sell counterfeit products this year where they actually bought counterfeit products. Maybe they bought them from eBay or they bought them from another third-party seller. Items were shipped in from, abroad, like might be China. And Amazon actually gave second chances. Historically, Amazon used to take this position that you've done wrong and you're done. This year has been the year of forgiveness, where they're actually, we're able to work with Amazon Legal and the attorneys there and get these second chances for tough cases that we would have not expected to see. It's also been the year that some brands said, forget Amazon and brand registry, we're headed to federal district court. So far this year, we've had about one seller a month that's actually been sued by a brand where the brand said, we filed IP claims on Amazon, it didn't work. That was your warning. We're not even going to bother sending you cease and desist letters. We'll see you in court. And it's been it's happening more and more frequently. So, obviously it really underscores the importance of having an attorney to help you, because when you deal with going to court, you probably don't want to represent yourself. It won't be a good outcome. So we'll talk a little bit more about these different cases and more on today's session. So.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm glad that we are having this session, first of all. So if you don't have a notebook and pen, please grab a notebook and pen and make sure you make some notes. Now, I know that we're going to probably talk about stuff from Amazon perspective, but I'm hoping we'll hit some of the other platforms. Are we going to talk about some of the other platforms as well today?
Well, we can. I'll say this much. eBay is kind of in we'll talk about eBay from a sourcing perspective. So when you buy from eBay, you got to make sure you're buying from trusted vendors. We can talk about Walmart because they actually introduced their version of brand registry called Brand
Yep.
Center. So we're dealing with their IP complaints. And then Shopify. Oh, interestingly enough, yeah, Shopify. I've had 2 sellers get terminated from Shopify for IP complaints. So without further ado, I guess let's hit Shopify first because that's the one I'll forget to talk about, and it's the easiest one to talk about.
All right, well, let's knock out Shopify.
Shopify, amazing place to sell your own products, not the place to sell arbitrage goods. So they are taking a hard stance against arbitrage, not because they're against what sellers are doing, but because they don't want to take the legal liability for the products being sold on their platform. So they now have if a brand makes a complaint against you for selling arbitrage goods, they'll now send you a form and you have to check off and say that, yes, you are an authorized seller. If you're not an authorized seller, then expect that will come back to bite you at some point, because if the brand makes a second complaint, they'll say you're done. So the key thing when it comes to Shopify is they'll give you a second chance, but you only get one. It's one and done. And then if you're selling, say Nike shoes, and Nike files a complaint against you on Shopify for being an unauthorized reseller of Nike shoes. Now I am making that up. It's the brands that Nike has not been on Shopify yet, or at least I haven't been involved in a case involving Nike, but there are some other major brands. So if you get a notice from Shopify saying this brand has reported you for selling their products, not necessarily the time to be a first sale crusader, because yes, I sometimes refer to people as that, the first sale Dr. Crusaders.
Oh,
because while you're probably right from a legal standpoint, Shopify doesn't play. They don't care. They say, go to court and come back with that. Come back with the evidence for us from that in court. Until then, we're minimizing our risk. And so they're very risk averse. And so they pretty much, they say, remove these products. And if you keep selling Nike, then expect that your store will get shut down. And it's just unfortunately how they've chosen to do business, because it is their marketplace. So if you have your own brand, Shopify is amazing. Private label, if you're authorized by the manufacturer, like for instance, when I was selling pet products on Shopify, my manufacturers authorized me to sell on my own store. Perfectly fine. No problems there. But, don't necessarily take stuff from Amazon and expect to sell it on Shopify.
And then as far as Shopify is concerned, for those people who are getting authorized, where do they send that if they've got a place on their website where they send that information?
They don't. So pretty much Shopify is a reactive company. So they react to complaints. So unfortunately, if you're an authorized vendor for Nike, there's nowhere to go and tell Shopify that, hey, guess what? I'm authorized. But you should also probably expect that you won't get a complaint. So it shouldn't, if Nike does file a complaint, that's the time to reach out to your contact at Nike and say, hey, you guys made a complaint against me. Let them go and retract that complaint with Shopify. So
Okay. All right. Good to know. So for you Shopify sellers, keep that in mind.
Yeah. Documentation and connections are key. Know who your contacts are at the brands. So that way you protect yourself.
Yeah. And having that documentation readily available so you can fire it back anytime there's an inquiry. That's always a good thing.
Right.
All right. So what's going on with Walmart? We'll go back to eBay in a second. What's going on with Walmart?
All right. So they launched Brand Center. So far, the number one type of complaints we've seen on Walmart is actually completely different than Amazon. So with Amazon brand registry, we typically see a lot of false counterfeit complaints. With Walmart, we're seeing a lot of trademark and copyright complaints. Trademark ones are usually geared around this idea of secondary listings. They're duplicate listings. And so the brand doesn't want to, they don't want 5 bottles of Pantene conditioner that are all 16-ounce bottles, coconut flavor. They don't want 5 different listings on Walmart. They want one, and Walmart ultimately wants one as well. They don't want 5 different offers or 5 listings. They'd rather have 5 offers on one listing. So that makes sense. And same thing happens on Amazon. Actually, we're seeing this more and more with brands using trademark complaints to get rid of duplicate pages because it's the fastest way to get rid of them. So there's that. The other issue that we're seeing, which is more common than the trademark on Walmart, is copyright. So there are a number of tools out there that allow you to mirror your Amazon listings to
Yep.
Walmart. The
Including a tool
problem with
called
that,
Listing Mirror. Yeah.
with what called what?
There's a couple of tools. One of them is called Listing Mirror. That's the name of it. But anyway, go ahead.
Oh yeah. So the problem with that is if you created the listing in question, meaning you took the photos, you took the text, you wrote the bullet points, you did all of it. Hey, that's fine. You that's all your copywritten content that you contributed to Amazon, and now you can take it and contribute it to Walmart. What you can't do is have this, Tide Pods listing that you're listed on that Tide created on Amazon, and then take all their stuff and create a Tide Pods listing on Walmart, because now that's copyright infringement. Tide, Procter and Gamble, Tide gave Amazon an exclusive worldwide license to use that Tide Pods content, but they didn't give it to Walmart. They also didn't give it to you to replicate to Walmart. So when you're using listings mirrors, like Listing Mirror or listing services that mirror your listings, you should only be mirroring listings that you created yourself, because otherwise you're technically copyright infringing. And so we're seeing brands file more and more of these complaints. Now, so far, they're not turning into a legal battle for Walmart. Where it will get interesting is talking about Amazon and legal battles, but that's, we will save the best for last. And we'll also talk about the next session you need to watch, which is Ashland's insurance session, because insurance this day and age, if you're driving without, or if you're operating an Amazon business or an e-commerce business without insurance, it's like driving without insurance, but probably way worse, because the penalties are actually much more severe for operating a business without insurance than driving without insurance, because your potential for liability is so much greater. So we'll get to that all in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the big thing with Walmart, fair game, make as many listings as you want. Take your own photos, write your own bullet points, write your own descriptions, your own content. It's got to be yours. Unless a brand tells you, hey, Nicole or Jeff, you can go and create this listing on Walmart. Here's our collateral. If they give that to you, by all means, copy and paste. But other than that, you can't just assume that because they've given this to Amazon that you can use it on Walmart, because it's not necessarily true.
Yeah, and that's one of the things. I mean, I pointed out Listing Mirror, but there's a bunch of them. eCom Dash, Celebrite. There's a bunch of them where you can where they do omni-channel, take your listings from one platform to another. So I'm just not targeting them specifically. But when you said Mirror, I'm like, there's one that's called that. But in any case, Michal Chapnick, if you didn't get a chance to watch her session on Walmart, she specifically talks about not taking your Walmart listings your Amazon listings and bringing them over to Walmart verbatim. Don't do that. Don't take the pictures over verbatim. You need to create your own version of them. Now, I know that even in doing that, as you said before, going back to the brand thing, I'm confident that if I decide to create a Tide Pods listing, then as a brand itself on Walmart, they're probably going to come after me and say, or make me take my listings down, because it's a duplicate. So it's indirectly a double-edged sword if you are doing retail arbitrage and you're selling Tide and you kick the listing from Amazon over to Walmart. So how do they manage both of those challenges of creating a brand new listing and doing retail arbitrage and selling Tide?
So, you're selling Tide, really, and people are going to hate this answer, but this is the lawyer, and so sometimes this is where legal and business collide,
Yeah.
and so sellers have to choose what they feel most comfortable with.
Yep.
But Walmart has Walmart Fulfillment Services, Amazon has FBA. If you're selling Tide Pods on Walmart and on FBA, and say you're at the store and you buy 10, if you look and you see that you can sell 5 Tide Pods on Walmart for $20 a piece, and it'll take a week to sell out, and you can sell five Tide Pods on Amazon for $25 and it'll take a week to sell out, I would send all 10 to Amazon. There's no need to saturate both markets. You send goods to where you'll make the most money, and think about that. Send your goods where you will make the most money. It sounds so simple, yet every day, just about, I talk to sellers where they're having these existential crises about, should I sell on this platform or that platform? Should I sell in Mexico? Should I sell in Canada? Should I sell in Australia? And then we start looking at the numbers, and it's like, well, like I had one seller. He does $200,000 a year in sales in Canada. That pales in comparison to his sales in the United States. He does a ton in the United States. However, his profit margin in Canada is 5%. And I was talking to him and I said, hey, let's think about this for a second. You're selling $200,000 a year at a 5% profit margin. You're making a net of $10,000 a year in Canada. What's your profit margin in the US? 20%. So if you sold those $200,000 worth of goods in the United States at 20%, you make $40,000 a year. It's not like you've got an unlimited supply of goods. You have, a fixed inventory of this many products. And if you send this many to Canada and this many to the US, you're absolutely taking away sales. You're cannibalizing yourself. So you have this really pretty number that you're growing Canada to talk about how you're a six-figure seller in Canada. But that's, it's nothing. Like it's just a top line number, because you could easily make the same number of sales in the US.
Yeah.
You're turning away US people that will pay more money for Canadians who are paying less money.
There you go. All right.
The same thing, like when you're choosing Amazon or Walmart, because you can't drop ship, you can't list on Walmart and drop ship from FBA. No, you can't list on Amazon and drop ship from Walmart. Oh. You need to decide when you're buying those products, you should send them where you think they'll sell best. Like and I would treat them as independent marketplaces. You list here, you list on Amazon and you send it in. You want to list the Tide Pods on Walmart? Find the listing, list on the correct listing, the same way you would in Amazon. Don't use any mirroring services, because you're going to, that's trademark and copyright violation, and, just run them independently of one another. So unless you're using some sort of like FBM type setup where you're fulfilling yourself, I use FBM, but I mean merchant fulfilled. So you could, where you could keep all 10 units on your shelf and send them out as they come in. But even in that case, I'd still say, if you've got 10 units to sell and one of them you'll make $10 per unit and one you'll make $7 per unit, you should try to optimize to make $10 a unit, because 10 times 10 is 100 and 10 times 7 is 70.
Yeah. So let me just say this. If you guys are not listening, go back and listen to this part, because you can clearly tell he's an attorney and he's a seller. Okay. So the perspective here is what you need. So if you all are ever looking for an attorney, I encourage you to reach out to Jeff Schick, because this part of being a seller, being able to understand the numbers and the impact to the business while still giving you the legal advice that you need is what you want. That's the type of support you want. All right.
Thank you. I appreciate
it. So is there anything else about let's Walmart, let's close out that discussion. Anything else about Walmart that's happening from a legal perspective that, because I know Walmart is still in sort of the infancy. I know that they are continuing to grow. They're continuing to grow their WFS, which is Walmart Fulfillment Services. They're continuing to get more sellers onto the platform, although their vetting process is more involved than Amazon. So is there anything else that we need to be mindful of? Are you seeing any shifts in Walmart, selling on Walmart, or that hasn't happened yet like it did when Amazon started clamping down?
It hasn't happened yet. The only thing I will say is their timelines matter more than Amazon's timelines. So like with Amazon, they'll say like, oh, you have 17 days to appeal this or your account will be deactivated. Doesn't really mean anything. For the most part, it's a nice to have. Like, it'd be nice to meet 17 days, but if you don't meet 17 days, they'll still look at your appeal on day 18. So it's better to have your ducks in a row and get it right, because like, for instance, if you've got a 17-day notification and it's based on IP claims, one of the big things we have to do to resolve that is get all the IP claims resolved. So if that means delaying our appeal till day 19 or 20 because we have to work through, 7 IP claims, getting those taken off first, we're going to do it. We're just going to delay, and Amazon will still look at it and they'll still give you that second chance and everything else in most cases. But with Walmart, if they say you need to submit an appeal within 2 days, I have noticed that they actually do care. The 2 days means something to them. So for whatever reason, their deadlines matter. So when you get a notice from them saying resolve this within X number of days, it typically does mean you need to do it. So
Okay, good to know.
I
All right.
imagine if they have more issues, they'll get looser with their
Yeah. Yeah.
requirements
Mm.
because it's just they're not going to be able to keep up with the influx of people sending stuff back. So
All right. Anything else you want to share about Walmart?
Walmart, that's about it for now. I mean, it's just kind of an evolving marketplace, sourcing, I think it's a great place, first mover advantage. Um, even if you don't plan on selling in the immediate future, I'd still sign up for an account. I signed up for my Walmart account the week that they started launching third-party sellers, and I've had it ever since, and it still lets me log in, and I don't sell anything right now on Walmart, but it's nice to know that it's there and that I can if I need to. So
Yeah. There's a lot of sellers getting a lot of traction on Walmart. So that's a good thing.
right.
All right. So let's talk about eBay.
eBay. Oh, so from a selling perspective, obviously there's been some changes lately when it comes to authenticity, where they're really clamping down on authenticity of certain goods. I think, to be honest, I think it's positive because for a long time, a lot of things on eBay, like I would go to eBay to buy stuff that I didn't care if it was authentic per se, because it was maybe, like maybe it was a replacement leg for a desk or something like that. It's like if it's not authentic, but it still fits the desk and the desk isn't going to fall apart, I'm fine with that. For on the other side of the spectrum though, like if I was going to buy a motorcycle helmet, I would never turn to eBay because I don't, the one time you need to find out if it's real is not the time to find out if it's real.
No, it's not.
So
Facts. Hashtag facts.
so the fact that they're now, enforcing authenticity in certain categories, I don't see a problem with it. It's interesting to see a lot of my shoe sellers are talking about how they're enforcing shoe sales authenticity, which is something interesting because I never, I've bought shoes from eBay before for my, to wear myself.
Right.
I never really thought about whether they were authentic or not. I guess until now, I'm just thinking about it now. Like I guess I still would have worn them because they still fit right. But it's nice to know that they're now enforcing and that they're going to be checking to make sure that they're real, at least on, I guess for the collectible shoes. I buy shoes to wear and then trash them after they've got enough holes in the side.
There you go. Well, when you're at the end, because I want to talk about shoes in a second, but I want to let you finish all of the eBay stuff, and we're going to talk about. I want to give you a specific scenario that I think has been very interesting. But anyway, go ahead.
Okay. Last thing about eBay is sourcing wise. So be mindful when you're sourcing on eBay that a lot of marketplaces, it could be Amazon, it could be Shopify, it could be Walmart, do not consider eBay to be a valid source of goods, even if you're buying from an official vendor. Some brands do have eBay stores, and those stores are selling authentic product. But the people that are reviewing the cases at the lower levels of many of these organizations, like Walmart and Amazon, don't know that, and they don't have the resources to dedicate to figure out who is who. So they can't tell the difference between, my favorite pair of Under Armours, as the seller name, and Under Armour official, to know that that Under Armour official is really official Under Armour and not just an official Under Armour fanboy that's selling Under Armours. And so they're going to assume the worst because time is not on their side, so they pretty much will not look at eBay receipts. So in general, I tend to say don't use eBay as a source unless it's really worth it. So this is, again, legal and business start to collide. Legally, you probably have nothing wrong with selling products sourced on eBay as long as you know they're authentic. That means they come from an official source. Maybe it's a distributor that has an eBay store and you can vet that the distributor really does have it, or it's in a manufacturer that has an eBay store. Doesn't necessarily mean that some random person selling stuff on eBay at a good price. I'm not talking about those. That's still not a good source because you're the one that ultimately bears the responsibility for the goods you sell. But if it's a major distributor, or major manufacturer that has an official eBay store, if you get a great deal, like you buy 100 pairs of Nikes from Nike Official and you can sell those for a $50 per unit markup, on Amazon, that's $5,000. it might be worth it. It's probably is worth it. If you can only sell them for a $5 markup, it's probably not worth it. It all depends on your risk benefit analysis, but most people probably it's not worth it, because unless they can really make a good profit, because you have to weigh the risk that that one item could cause your entire Amazon account or eBay or Walmart account to go down for several weeks until we get it escalated to the right person at Amazon legal that looks at it and goes, oh yeah, it's the official Under Armour store. Okay, there's nothing wrong, nothing to see here. Time to reactivate and move along. But that can take time.
Okay. Well, I think eBay is trying to change their image. I think there's a couple of things that have been happening. We know about all the smash and grabs that have just been happening across the U.S., which is completely crazy, insane, and stupid. And some of that inventory is showing up in different places, whether it be stolen, it is all stolen, but whether it be eBay or sometimes, depending on Amazon, sometimes on these other platforms. So it's showing up in different places. And so eBay, I think I've seen an increase in uptick in suspensions. Yeah. And I don't know if you've been seeing that as well on eBay, where accounts are being suspended for a couple of different reasons. One, people being able to prove how they acquired the inventory. And I think that's where eBay is trying to improve their people's perception of them. Because some of the smash and grab have shown up on eBay, and some of it's been showing up on other Mercari, Poshmark, Facebook Marketplace. So it's been showing up in different places. But in addition to that, I've heard different stories, from influencers that have had problems with eBay. One influencer, their account got suspended because eBay was calling to do a checkup on their account, and she didn't answer the phone. Look, I'm the same chick. If I don't know your phone number, I'm not answering. Oh, you got a mosquito or a wasp near you?
There's a wasp. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I hate that. Okay, so hopefully he will stay away.
Yeah,
but that's the hope. But
yes.
I didn't know if you.
Oh, you got hit by the fan up above. That's what happened. Why you got boomeranged into my laptop.
He ricocheted off the fan.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out why the heck you ended up on my table and laptop, but okay, he's gone now. So
okay, but so one influencer had her account suspended, and she had to fight to get it back because of the fact that she didn't answer the call from eBay. And when she finally, after connecting with friend after friend after friend, because she's an influencer, and finally got to somebody at eBay, got them on the phone, they explained to her that her account was suspended because they were calling to do a verification. She has an older account and they like to re-verify sellers. And she's like, first of all, I wasn't expecting a phone call from anybody. Second of all, I don't answer calls from unknown sources. And so just because you called me twice and I didn't answer the phone does not mean that my account is not legitimate. So I don't know if you've seen any of those. And then there was another influencer that got caught up, not necessarily caught up, but they could improve the chain of custody from some very unique tennis shoes that they acquired. They were not classified as not for resale, but they acquired them from some very prominent, famous people. And so they were reselling them on eBay. That's what they've been doing for years. And their eBay account was suspended because they couldn't prove the chain of custody. Now, buying them from this very famous person, and just because you have the opportunity to get them and having a receipt, that is not what eBay was looking for ultimately at the end of the day. They weren't looking for that receipt as far as chain of custody is. They were saying this was a unique pair of shoes that were only created for this person. Maybe it was a photo shoot for a famous athlete, and they are only one-time shoes. And Nike knows it, or Reebok knows it. And then because they couldn't prove where they got the tennis shoes from to sell on eBay, even though they showed the receipt, it was irrelevant, and eBay suspended their account. Have you been seeing anything unusual, weird, suspicious stuff like that? Or is it everyday activity?
I haven't seen anything like that. So we haven't seen too many eBay things other than managed payments verification failures. So from our side, we're seeing people, if they used to have an eBay account that was banned, going through managed payment verification and then getting banned again on their newer account that they had used as a replacement. Because it used to be, burn the accounts. You have a problem, just start a new one. Well, now with managed payments, it makes it much more difficult to do that. And
Okay.
so that's been the big thing that we're dealing with. But I haven't seen any of these unique situations you're talking about. And now we have seen quite a bit of Amazon issues with related to smash and grab. So that's
Yeah.
a lot of brands are working, like Walmart, Walgreens, and Amazon and CVS all have a new smash and grab task force that they work together to go after sellers, which is why some of these IP complaints you see from CVS and Walgreens are nearly impossible to resolve, because Amazon would rather just keep the listing suppressed than deal with it, because those are they're high velocity stolen items. And basically they were ending up in liquidators. I don't know if you can see me on there. We go.
Yeah.
Liquidators. um, that weren't real. They're selling it out of a trunk, but they're calling themselves a liquidation company, and then sellers were the ones selling stolen merchandise. So
Wow. I wonder how real liquidation companies are dealing with that, because there are real liquidation companies that acquire inventory from Walgreens, CVS, Walmart, Target, like all of these different stores, Sephora. I think that's another one that's gotten hit a lot. I wonder how real liquidators are dealing with that. It's going to be interesting.
it's not so bad for them because they have receipts, they have contacts, they have people who can write letters to back them up, so they know who they're dealing with, and there's a point of contact. But like there's one liquidator that I spoke to. I'm not going to say him publicly, but they reached out to me because they were trying to get approved by another one. They're trying to get approved by a, a brand, and I may have to take this indoors because there's another one.
Okay. I
But
understand.
they were trying to get approved by basically an influencer asked me to vet them
Mm.
for before introducing them to their community. And I talked to him on the phone. I was like, "Well, where do you get your product?" He goes, "We get everything from Amazon." I was like, red flag number one. This was like a very proud thing he was proud of. I was like, "Okay, so you get it all from Amazon. Well, how do you get it from Amazon?" "Well, we buy their returns and their overstock, lost inventory." Okay. When you say overstock, you talk about Amazon as a 1P overstock or Amazon as 3P overstock. He says we don't distinguish. We don't ask the question. Okay, red flag number 2, 3, and 4. Like, and then I go, so the goods that you're selling, how would do you consider them new? He goes, of course they are. They're all new in box. They've just been either returned to Amazon or marked unfulfillable or lost, or a seller has asked Amazon to dispose of them. Okay, red flag number 5, 6, 7, and 8. Like, and then he goes, so do I pass the test? I'm like, and then he's like, and then he starts bragging. He goes, we are now making almost $2 million a month selling these goods to Amazon sellers to sell on Amazon. Okay, so that means you just have a lot of Amazon sellers that are left holding the stinky bag after you walk away with your profit from it. Got it. Okay, red flag number 9. Like, and so dissect this a little bit. The problem with this model, one, liquidation loss from Amazon. If it's a returned item to Amazon that's being returned and it's marked as unfulfillable, then the reason it's unfulfillable is because it's not new. So you cannot go on Amazon and list a
It's new.
unfulfillable item as new, because that's a violation of Amazon's product condition guidelines and product condition policy.
Mhm.
Strike one. Strike two, if they are lost inventory, then that just means it was lost inventory. But what if this is a pair of Nike shoes that was lost but was made by Qingdong factory in Shenzhen, China, and was never made by Nike in Vietnam, because I think most Nike products come from Vietnam. It was made by some random factory in China, and now is being sold. It was sent to Amazon and it was lost because Amazon loses product, and now you're selling counterfeit Nikes. You don't know that it's real. You didn't buy it at TJ Maxx. You didn't buy it at Academy Sports or the Nike store. You're just assuming that because it has an LPN sticker on it or a FNCU sticker that it must be real, but there's no guarantee. You have no chain of custody whatsoever.
Mhm.
Strike number 2. Strike number 3, he says, well, these are products that Amazon says was overstock. Either they bought too much, or the seller has marked it for disposal. Again, if a seller marks a product for disposal, or Amazon marks a product for disposal, Amazon does sometimes sell those to liquidation companies. That doesn't make them new. makes them disposed inventory. Again, not new, not sellable, doesn't meet the definition of new, and certainly doesn't mean that it's authentic either, because again, it could be fake inventory that a seller got rid of. I've had plenty of sellers reach out to me that have inventory. Maybe it's a private label seller that made inventory with Batman logos all over it because they didn't know what the Batman was a trademark of the company, Warner Brothers. And so they, once they talked to me and I said, you got to get rid of all this goods, they go into Amazon, they click dispose. All those products now get flooded to one of these websites, Liquidator, who now is selling it as, hey, look at this. You can buy this and sell it as new. You just inherited somebody else's problem.
Yeah. And see, we have an Amazon liquidation center here in Dallas-Fort Worth in Arlington. Yeah. And I think there's 2 here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. But I know that there's one definitely in Arlington. And a lot of that is going to be Amazon returns. Are the WASP still out there? He's like, I'm watching now.
So Amazon just to be on the safe side. I understand. Maybe the most interesting video, it went from a really beautiful backdrop to, a horror film and all, before, and we didn't even talk about the lawsuits yet.
So. No, we haven't talked about the lawsuits yet, so I'll wrap it up. But anyway, I guess what needs to happen is those people who buy stuff from the true Amazon liquidation locations, because there are true ones out there. Because we have one here in Arlington where Amazon sends all of their returns and stuff like that, that you can't sell those back on Amazon as new. So your other choices are other platforms like eBay or Facebook Marketplace, Mercari, that kind of stuff.
And remember, you're still responsible for the items you sell on any of these platforms. So you really have to be careful buying liquidation, because there is no chain of custody.
There is no chain of custody. Yeah.
You have no way to know whether these goods, because think about it this way. I'll put this as an example, and then it'll probably make more sense. Imagine that there's a company that wants to sell 1,000 pairs of counterfeit Nike shoes. And so what they do is they box them up. They're all fake. They look legitimate, like to the untrained eye. They don't have serial numbers because they're not going to scan as real because they're fake. But for all intents and purposes, if you look at it, the average person is not going to know the difference between these shoes and a real Nike shoe unless you probably work for Nike. And so they make 1,000 of these overseas. They get them through customs. They send them to Amazon, FBA. They mark them as $200 a pair because they don't care if they sell. They're not listing them on actual Amazon listings because they don't want to get hit with inauthentics or anything else. So they just put them under some random listing. Maybe they're under an alarm clock listing. Oh, like whatever it is. Now they're going to say dispose of inventory, knowing that they're going to get sent to one of these liquidation companies by Amazon. They go and buy it back from one of these liquidators. And then if that was enough from it going from Amazon to a liquidator to give it, basically a clean title, we've now washed 1,000 pairs of shoes in our counterfeit laundering scheme to sell as new. That's not real. They're still counterfeit. And that's the problem right there, because you don't know where those came from. They could be 1,000 pairs of shoes that came from Nike and Nike's factory and went directly to Amazon, and they were authentic because Nike made them. Or they could have been the example I just talked about.
Wow.
And at the end of the day, you don't know.
You don't know. Well, and this is what I will say. We know because it's only been in the news. Target has pushed back on their vendors on their inventory levels and said, look, and we know we placed these orders, but we're not going to accept them. Kohl's and Bed Bath & Beyond are in peril financially. And so they have a lot of inventory that's coming in, and that inventory is being pushed out into the liquidation space as well. So there's a lot of legitimate inventory. And then Walmart has already stated, they were in the news last week or the week before, where they said that their numbers for Q2, and Amazon too, that their numbers for Q2 were not as expected. And so that's going to impact the amount of inventory, because, stuff will come across on the boat and then they'll say, nah, we're not picking it up. So, so it becomes legitimate, real inventory that was placed by Target and Kohl's and Bed Bath & Beyond and all this other stuff. So that's going to be a very interesting, I guess, ocean to swim in when it comes
but that stuff's all real though. So, because that Kohl's didn't acquire it. illegally. You know, Kohl's bought it from the manufacturer. So like,
Right.
so I would have no problem counseling a seller to say, yeah, you can sell that. That's fine. It's not Kohl's returns. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, I have seen some sellers who work with department stores and they say, hey, all your returned merchandise, we'll buy it from you. That it poses problems because some merchandise is perfect. It has perfect tags and no issues. Other merchandise comes back and it's, it's worn, it's been tried on. It's definitely used. And then, you list it as new and you end up with a whole nother bucket. But if you're in that first bucket, like you mentioned, the overstock,
rejected inventory from the true from the true department store, which is what they're doing. They're literally rejecting. That Target, they was in the news like 2 months ago. Like, we're not accepting. We've already told our vendors that we're not accepting the inventory when it arrives. I was like, wow.
Yeah. Interesting times we're in.
Yeah.
It makes a good opportunity for arbitrage.
That's for sure. Makes a great opportunity. But again, you got to know where it came from. So that's the key. You got to know where it came from. Okay. All right. So just in case we have to readjust because of the WASP situation, even though it's a beautiful backdrop, do we need to readjust? Or are we going to keep going and let's talk about Amazon and you think we're good or no?
We're good.
All right. So let's talk about Amazon and we'll wrap this up.
All right. So Amazon has been interesting. So in the past, everyone had this belief that if I can list it, I can sell it. And if Amazon seller support tells me I can sell it, I can sell it. Again, I've never had that belief, but this is just a belief that's been in there. Amazon lately, one, of course, they never have stood behind the things their people say. They always have done what's best for Amazon, regardless. If you listen to them at your peril, it's your peril. But with that being said, there is a mistaken belief, and I see it over and over again, where sellers will tell me, I got an IP claim, but I did it myself, I appealed it and got it reinstated, or I hired a non-lawyer service, I appealed it and got it reinstated, and so therefore I'm allowed to sell this product because Amazon said so. They accepted my appeal, so I can sell it. And what's interesting about that is that Amazon doesn't review appeals for merit. They are checking off a checkbox, just like they don't review IP complaints for merit. If you file an IP complaint and you check box A, B, C, and D, and those are the required boxes to check, they post it to your, the brand files it, Amazon posts it to your account, your product gets taken down. Similarly, if you file an appeal and it has A, B, C, and D that has to be checked for an appeal to be accepted, they're checking A, B, C, and D. They're not looking at the quality of the arguments behind A, B, C, and D. They're just looking that you did it. It's quantity over quality issue. Not, there's no, did you meet the criteria? Yes. Okay, we'll accept that appeal. If you keep selling that product, you're at your own peril. And so what we're seeing now has been interesting. Some brands are starting to get fed up with this, and they're saying, okay, we filed that IP claim against you. You kept selling the product. So guess what? We're going to take this to someone who's going to respect it. Federal District Court of XYZ state. Here, let's file a complaint there. And then, let's ask Amazon, some of them are even taking it one step further. Hey, did I lose you, Nicole?
Okay, we're back.
Okay, we're back. Where did I lose you?
Okay, so you were you were talking about your own peril. So
okay, you're at your own peril.
Okay.
So you file it, and Amazon, Amazon says it's okay to sell. They're not saying you're approved to sell this. Congratulations, you're legally okay to sell it, and this, you'll never have an issue. They're just saying you've met our criteria for us to remove this complaint from your dashboard. Did I lose you again?
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, okay. Something happened. I don't know what's going on.
What?
And then Nicholas walks in.
What?
Go back in there.
Get on the box?
Yeah.
Okay, play on.
Yeah. All right, go ahead.
So,
hey, mama.
I said get off the box.
Got play on.
Sure, Nicholas. Bye. Okay. All right, go ahead.
So yeah, so Amazon's not saying, hey, you're approved and we'll defend you and you can sell this. They're just simply saying you've met our criteria for us to take this off your account, and to the extent that there was any restrictions, we've lifted those.
Right.
Because you hit the criteria that was necessary. So some brands are now saying, okay, we fired that shot at you through Amazon as an appeal or as an IP claim. You appealed it. So we're going to take it one step further. We're going to file a lawsuit against you in the federal district court of XYZ state. Some of them are even saying, we'll ask Amazon to withhold your funds and inventory while we work with the court to address this issue. And then they wait for you to get served with those papers. Now, remember how I said about Nike that you don't know where the products came from?
Right.
Nike does have a counterfeit problem when it comes to Amazon. And so I have had a seller that I worked with earlier this year who did get sued by Nike. The very first question when I got on the phone with Nike's attorney that they asked is, where did your seller acquire these goods? Reached out to the seller. They said, oh, I bought them at reputable store. I said, did you ever buy them anywhere else? They said, no. I went back to Nike. They said, can you give us receipts? I did. They said, okay, the receipts you gave us match up with the sales volume that Amazon provided us. They said you sold this number of pairs. You should have receipts for this many from a reputable store. We're going to go ahead and dismiss this lawsuit against you. Have a nice day. Believe it or not, that case was resolved in 3 hours. The seller was reinstated, lawsuit was dropped, and everything was good to go. It was great. It was a very happy ending for that seller. But Nike was fully prepared to make it, rain bombs on this seller's business and probably their personal finances too, if they would not have had the evidence that was needed to get them removed from that lawsuit. For the other several hundred sellers on that lawsuit, I did not represent them, and I don't know what happened because I'm too busy working with the sellers that I do represent to go follow up on the gossip train of what happened to the other ones. But I'll say, if they didn't have attorneys, who knows what happened with them?
Wow.
And if they didn't buy from reputable sources, who knows what happened? So I mentioned earlier, this has been the first year we see brands moving away from Amazon brand registry and on into real courtrooms. So far this year, I've had almost just about one lawsuit a month against a seller from different brands. Everyone's a different brand and a different circumstance. They've run anywhere from patent infringement to copyright to trademark infringement. In every single one of those cases, it was avoidable for the most part. The patent infringement case was a private label seller. They could have gotten a patent review and found that there was a patent that looked exactly like the product they were selling and functionality exactly the same as the product they were selling, and that would have avoided the patent claim. That lawsuit we settled. It was initially for almost $100,000. We settled it for under 10. So that was a case where good legal advice helped out because we got that number down substantially. Trademark infringement complaint that was trademark on Amazon as an IP claim. Seller got it appealed, kept selling the product. It was a private label product. Didn't change the listing at all. Got hit with a federal lawsuit. Again, another one of these extreme ones. Started out with $400,000 asking price to resolve the lawsuit. Settled it again under $10,000. But still, scary times for the seller when they get hit with this $400,000 lawsuit that the brand is, going after them, froze all their funds, all their inventory, everything else on Amazon. Another lawsuit we just resolved last week was, again, started out as a copyright claim. Seller heeded the copyright claim, but then the brand decided that they weren't satisfied with just the copyright claim, decided to follow up with a lawsuit, and then we settled that one again under 10,000, but still, you see the trend. It was emotionally draining for the seller, and they just wrote the check yesterday, and they're not happy about it. So even though it's much less than what they could have written, it's still no one wants to write that check and realize it was an avoidable situation. So I guess the moral of the story there is that be very careful that where this gets interesting, in all three of those cases, the sellers were either contacted by Amazon and told that they needed to appeal the IP claims, and the appeals needed to admit that they had infringed. In all three of those cases, such an admission would have likely tripled the amount of money they paid. Because once you get into willful infringement, which is what an admission of guilt does, the brand can collect triple damages. So if their ask was $400,000 and then you write an appeal to Amazon saying, I'm so sorry that I infringed on this trademark. Well, now we just made it willful infringement. The brand's probably going to ask for 1.2 million because why settle at 400 if they've got, and keep in mind, anything you say to Amazon does get sent to the brand when there's a lawsuit. Woo! They see everything. So when the people tell me, oh, I wrote this myself and it was so great, you have to be careful. And so I'm not trying to scare people, because at the end of the day, most people have businesses that can sustain the hit. The sellers that wrote these checks to settle these cases, this did impact their ability to buy inventory. Maybe they couldn't buy as much, but at the end of the day, they didn't have to pull their child out of school. They didn't have to adjust their family lifestyle. They just had to, it was just a business cost that they had to incur. And it was an inconvenient business cost, but it wasn't, $10,000 is a heck of a lot better than 400,000, so they could recover from it. But you have to be smart, because the seller I told you about that we resolved their case last week that wrote the check yesterday, he got called by Amazon and told last week or 2 weeks ago, before we'd reached the settlement, that he needed to submit appeals for these ASINs in question. And I'm like, if you do that, it's going to the brand. They're going to get copies of it. And this is going to turn it into a very different discussion. He's like, but the lady on the phone keeps saying that we need to do it. And I was like, yeah, but she doesn't know what she's talking about. He goes, yeah, I did ask her how long she's been at Amazon. And she said she just graduated college in May and that she just finished her 2-week orientation last week. Okay. I was like, okay. And then here's something interesting. He was really chatty with her. She was intrigued. He goes, so how do they teach you everything you need to learn? She goes, oh, they set us up with this thing called Seller University, which for those of you who sell on Amazon know that is on Seller Central. That's what they're training the people on Amazon support.
And some of it's available through YouTube. Okay, so
yeah.
All right. Okay.
And here she is giving him guidance on how to handle a copyright infringement claim.
All right, that's perfect. Perfect.
With pending litigation.
Okay.
And so now here's something interesting. I did tell my client, I said, because he was really worried after the Amazon call. I said, call one of these other consultants and just see what they have to say. I'm genuinely curious. They all offer free consults. So call one of the non-lawyer consultants and see what they say. And the guy immediately started telling him, you need to submit an appeal, basically just like the Amazon girl. You need to submit an appeal. You got to admit that you did this wrong, but that you're not going to do it ever again. All this sort of stuff. I'm like, he comes back to me, he goes, well, I feel really confident in what you're telling me now, because even though he's backing up what Amazon said, I could tell that he was trying to sell me an appeal and literally knew nothing about the legal consequences. Even after I told him that I was being sued by the brand for these ASINs in question, he was still telling me I needed to write an appeal. I'm like, yeah, this is exactly the problem. Sometimes it's better to let sleeping dogs lie. And, for this case, no appeal necessary, because there's no appeal that's going to satisfy Amazon and avoid you getting sued for massive amounts of money. So at this point, knowing the situation you're in, I would rather let Amazon be unhappy than pay for, my future kids to go to law school, because the amount of litigation you're going to involve yourself in if you file an appeal that admits wrongdoing.
Oh, man. Well, okay. So if there were let's say if there were maybe 5 tips that you would recommend people stay away from, or to help them to have a good, decent Q4, what 5 tips would you give them?
All right. Tip number 1, know your sourcing. Know where you're buying from. If somebody comes to you and they say, hey, I have a fantastic deal on Nike shoes, you say, where did you buy it from? They say, I can't disclose my source. You say, I can't disclose my checkbook. They're not worth your money. If they won't tell you where they bought the product from, they're not worth your money. Okay. Even if it's a great deal. There is such a thing as it's too good to be true.
Yeah,
there is. That's it. If they won't tell you where you bought it, or if they say, well, I buy it wholesale, and my wholesaler, I won't give you my invoice. Okay, thanks. Hopefully the click isn't too loud on the phone. It's, it's not worth it. Ultimately, you're the one that's responsible for the items you sell. If you wouldn't feel comfortable putting your source, if your wholesaler won't give you their invoice because they're not supposed to be selling to e-commerce sellers, you shouldn't feel comfortable buying from them, even if they have a good deal, because you're the one that bears the brunt of that bad news if it turns into bad news. So tip 1, know your sourcing. Use smart sourcing. Smart, source smart, know where you're buying stuff from, work with people that are reputable, that will give you legit invoices, If their company is ABC Corp and they claim they're an authorized distributor, but you can't find anything about them online, they're probably not an authorized distributor. So, and that means they're probably buying from XYZ distributor, who is a legit distributor. But if they won't give you their XYZ invoice, they might as well be buying from Goodwill, because that's how Amazon's going to view it.
Yep.
And yeah. Tip number 2, don't buy from Goodwill. There have been influencers out there posting videos on Facebook saying you can source at Goodwill. Good luck. Goodwill, good luck. You're going to need a lot of goodwill and a lot of good luck when Amazon finds that one out, or eBay,
well, just don't
Facebook,
sell your stuff on Amazon for sure. Goodwill has been a great source for people who are pickers, I'll say.
Yeah.
They've been able to work it out for years and years and years. It may come to an end at some point, but right now it's working out.
Yeah. But not on Amazon, not on Walmart, not on eBay, So know your sourcing.
Yep.
So that'd be, I guess, tip number 2. Tip number 3, make sure that every attribute of your listings, whether it's on Amazon, it's on eBay, it's on Walmart, make sure every attribute matches. If you pick up a bottle of Pantene conditioner and it says 16 ounces and the listing you find says 15.9, that doesn't match. It's matching in the customer's favor, but it doesn't match. And you need to ask yourself, why doesn't it match? Either, for instance, I saw a counterfeit product recently that came through that it was a 17-ounce bottle. The reason why this product was really interesting to me is that the seller was selling a 17-ounce bottle. The product only is made in 16.9 ounces, which is a 500 milliliter or fluid milliliter configuration. I really knew this product because it's one of the ones I used to arbitrage. So that's how I paid for law school, was with this particular product. So when it came across my desk, I knew it very well. And the fact that I saw 17 ounces was like a major red flag. So I'm like, they never will. They're a company that's based in France. They will never use American sizing. They never have, never will. They always use milliliters first. And the fact that it says 17 mLs or 17 fluid ounces,
yeah,
and then like 502 mLs, I was like, they would never do it. Like I know firsthand. I went to the manufacturer's website and they didn't have a 17-ounce bottle. They still had 16.9. I'm like, nothing changed. This is a dirty distributor you bought from, So check every attribute, because bank error doesn't work in your favor when it comes to listing, whether it be Amazon, Walmart, eBay. If something's off, it could, brand name is the number 2 reason people get suspended on Amazon.
There you go.
So
now I do want to add something. Remember what your tip number 4 is for just a second, and your tip number 5. I do want to add something to that. I know that because of the economy, there's I forget what it's called, the term of
shrinkflation.
And so they are selling some things in some unexpected sizes. So
yes,
if you're seeing it consistently out in the universe, that's one thing, because of the fact we're dealing with shrinkflation. So, and what I mean by that is, like, there's a 32-ounce bottle of something and they're selling the product now and it's 28 ounces and they're selling it at the same exact price. So I had to get schooled on that in one of our podcasts. So anyway, go ahead.
No worries. Yeah, shrinkflation is real. So let's make that tip number 4. Bring that up. Watch out when listing items. Make sure, the one thing that's interesting, shrinkflation happens. It may be $17.99 for a bottle that what used to be 32 ounces that's now 28, still $17.99, but that UPC probably changed.
Yep.
Because big manufacturers don't generally recycle UPCs. They'll create a new UPC. There's a new ASIN, everything else. So don't, and here's another tip here. If maybe it shrinkflated down to 16-ounce bottles from 32, and you can find 2 16-ounce bottles and sell them at a profit on a 32-ounce listing, because maybe the 16 ounce is cheaper. Don't do it. It won't work in your favor the way you think it will. Tip number 5, I guess, kind of goes along the same way. Bundle listings. Watch out for them. Don't create your own bundles without knowing what you're doing. Amazon's been policing that quite a bit. Walmart's policing it quite a bit. If a manufacturer created a bundle, like, Kirkland Signature sells shampoo and conditioner and they're shrink wrapped together, hey, that's fine. List on that bundle all you want. Costco also sells like the Pantene conditioner where they shrink wrap 2 bottles together. You can sell those as a 2-pack on Amazon. What Amazon and Walmart are both really fighting back hard against right now is people who buy that 2-pack they cut it open and they sell 2 singles, because your receipt shows you might have bought 20 2-packs. That's 40 bottles, and you sell 40 singles on Amazon. Amazon's not going to do the math to figure out that 20 times 2 equals 40, because in their mind, you bought 20 2-packs. You should have sold it as 22 packs, not 41 packs. So just you'll watch out for that.
And I will say I do agree with that because I do bundles all the time. So 100%, I would never argue with an attorney. I will say that probably is really, really relevant for brands. And
Yes.
if you're buying generic, whatever it is that you're selling, because I do like Christmas bundles, we'll do house shoes with, your little pumice stone and the lotion and the cream and all that, little travel size, and make your own version of a bundle. That is, you're using generic brands to do that kind of stuff.
That's fine. Now, I would say don't put it under the brand name generic. Put it under your
we're not
own
putting
brand.
it under the brand name generic, but you get what I'm saying. Like, it's not a name brand. It's not a Uggs slippers or something like that. So anyway, go ahead.
Right. Oh, yeah. And then here's tip number 6, because I know you said 5, but tip number 6 it goes along with generic. Check your inventory for generic on Walmart and Amazon. Go into the manage inventory page. In the search bar, just type generic. If you see anything pop up that shows up as generic, do some research into it, because more likely than not, the brand name or some attribute is listed as generic, and it's probably wrong. And we are seeing them clean house right now in preparation of Q4.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Some sellers are getting hit pretty hard with it, especially if Amazon. Here's the deal. I know I say Amazon all the time. Walmart does it too, but Amazon's the most vicious about it. They take the position that if a seller's listed on the brand name generic, it's not because they listed on the wrong listing on accident. Their people are going to assume the worst. You were trying to skirt the Amazon rules. And I know it's terrible to say it that way, but that's how they view it. And that's how they view the world. They view it with this pessimistic attitude that sellers are somehow out there trying to cheat the system, and it's their job to stop sellers. So when people say, "Oh, they're targeting me and my business," it's not that they're not targeting you. They don't have anything personal against you. They probably don't even look at your store name. Your store name could say anything it wants to be, right? You can make it anything. They're not really even going to look at that, because to them, as one of the seller performance people I know said, they go, "Oh yeah, these people are just numbers to us." And I don't mean that in a bad way. They view it as a merchant ID number.
Yeah.
And their whole goal is to save Amazon money from fraud, and so that's so you have to watch out. And that's why I tell people, always think about things when you're listing products. If something's questionable, ask yourself, how would this look? How does this look to me as the seller who wants to make money on it? But how does it look to somebody who thinks that the worst of me? Because that's what you want to think about. Not how much money you can make on it, but how does this look to somebody who doesn't know me, that doesn't know that I'm a good person, that assumes that I might not be a good person just because they don't know who I am as a person.
Yeah.
That's what you got to watch out for.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, I will say I'm grateful for all those tips. Guys, go back and re-listen to this. And I don't remember at the top of my head what the bonus is for those people who upgrade to the All Access Pass, but there'll be an opportunity somewhere on this page to upgrade to the All Access Pass. I am going to be covering bundles. I am going to be talking about how you can create bundles on Amazon and not get in trouble. So we're going to be going through that.
Nice.
And doing your best not to put together brands, because we're not trying to get a call from an attorney or an email or whatever for $400,000. None of that.
Yeah.
We're gonna pass on that. So, Jeff, I don't know if you remember, what is your bonus for those people who upgrade to the All Access Pass?
So I have my monthly retainer service. It's $89 a month when people sign up. It covers anything that happens on your Amazon account for the most part. The only exception I tell people is product recalls. Reason being is because product recalls generally affect major manufacturers, and the average product recall is 30 to 50 hours worth of work. So it is excluded, but everything else on the account health dashboard for the most part is covered. So you pay $89 a month. If your account gets shut down, your ASIN gets suspended, you get an IP claim, no matter what it is, you send it over to our legal team, and you've got, trained attorneys working on the case to make sure that it's handled properly, and not just what Amazon wants to hear, but what you need to be doing based on what protects your business. Now, for the All Access Pass members, there's a special discount on that. And I apologize, I can't remember what it is either, but
Okay.
it is. I've already submitted it, but there's a special discount. And all you have to do is you sign up with my retainer and then reach out to me and let me know that you saw it on the All Access Pass, and we'll apply that discount for automatically to your account. So
there you go. All right. I'm so grateful to you. I'm grateful for all the knowledge that you share. We could go on and on and on. I don't know if Jeff will be sitting on any of the live Q&A panels, but if you get a chance, if he does join us, great. If he doesn't, we completely understand because attorneys are always busy. And I am grateful for the time that you invested today in today's session. Guys, go back and watch this again. It's going to be great for you and your business. And if you have any questions from a legal standpoint, ask them in the Facebook group, because sometimes Jeff will scroll through there and roll through there, and he might answer your question. And
make sure you tag me. So that way I can, yes, tag me for sure, and then I'll be happy to jump in. So
there you go. So if you have a legal question, Jeff is there to help you. And as you know, he is a real seller. So with that, Jeff, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you. And
thank
we're
you,
going
Nicole.
to
I appreciate it.
All right. Well, this has been another masterclass in the eCom Q4 Summit. We say goodbye for now.
Awesome.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.